Bilt 2.0 just dropped a new option for earning points on rent and mortgages, and I'm here to tell you that it's not quite what it seems. No, it's neither strictly better nor worse than the current option, as that determination is very situational and preference-based. It's just that on the surface, the new option seems to work better the more you spend on a Bilt card, but when you do the actual math, I was certainly a little mind blown. Now, I get that many of you are mathed out and perhaps frustrated by the overall Bilt 2.0 rollout. I assure you that I'll just be doing one calculation, repeating it across a few different numerical inputs, and after that you just have to keep the punchline in mind. Naturally, let's start with what the new option is. Essentially, it does away with earning Bilt cash on everyday spend. You'll still earn Bilt cash on the welcome offers as well as per the anniversary bonus on the Palladium card, but the 4% Bilt cash on everyday spend, not a thing anymore under this option. Here, we just have a tiered system where the points multiplier that you earn on rent and mortgages scales with how much you put on everyday spend as a proportion of your rent and mortgage. You'll get a 0.5x multiplier if you spend at least 25% of your monthly rent or mortgage, 0.75 if you spend at least 50%, 1x if you spend at least 75%, and 1.25x if you spend the same or more than your rent and mortgage. Also, if you don't hit that first everyday spend requirement, you'll earn a flat 250 Bilt points. And by the way, this is all without transaction fees on rent and mortgages. That second to last option, which is 1x points for spending 75% of your rent and mortgage, is set to be equivalent to the current option where you earn 4% Bilt cash on everyday spend, and then you can convert that Bilt cash into Bilt points up to 1x of your rent or mortgage. Let's get into the math of this second to last tier using the $495 Palladium card as an example, where you earn 2x points on everything. A $2,000 rent payment is a realistic number that also doesn't introduce annoying decimals when you work out the math, and so in this case, the amount of everyday spend is $1,500. Alright, so you earn 2x points on the $1,500 of everyday spend, 3,000 points, and 1x points on the $2,000 of rent, 2,000 points. That's 5,000 points in total, and when you divide that by the $1,500 of everyday spend, you'll find that your overall multiplier on everyday spend is 3.33x. Again, it's the same multiplier as if you were under the current option if you spend at least 75% of your rent and mortgage and converted all that Bilt cash earned into Bilt points. Now, let's look at that last tier where you get a 1.25x multiplier on rent or mortgage if you spend the same as or more than your rent and mortgage. Seems enticing, right? You're unlocking a higher point multiplier if you put enough extra spend on your Bilt card. However, we'll see how from the perspective of the overall multiplier, you are not coming out ahead. Again, let's use a $2,000 rent, and here you will have $2,000 of everyday spend. That's 2x on the everyday spend when using the Palladium card, 4,000 points, and 1.25x on the rent, 2,500 points. 6,500 points total divided by the $2,000 of everyday spend gives you 3.25x, a slight downtick from the 3.33x associated with the second to last tier. Surprised as I was? I wonder if this was just coincidental on Bilt's part, like maybe some marketing people set some nice numbers for the multipliers that were nicely spaced out and didn't necessarily bother calculating the overall multipliers that the customers receive. Or, more likely, Bilt knowingly developed this relationship where if you spend enough to hit the lowest end of the next tier, you actually get a lower multiplier compared to the lowest end of the previous tier. In fact, when you work out the numbers for the earlier two tiers, this relationship becomes clear. It's not strictly downward sloping, it's just that case when you look at the lowest end of each tier. Now, don't get me wrong, many of you will still find that a 3.25x multiplier on your non-category spend is fantastic, especially if you can consistently spend as much in everyday spend as your rent or mortgage. I'm not revealing these numbers with the intent of discouraging anyone from getting and using any of the Bilt cards. Rather, I'm just pointing out how the way weighted averages can work can sometimes offer a different picture compared to the surface level numerical inputs. I'm also a math major and an actuary, so this type of math is quite fun for me. Explains my YouTube channel named Monty the Card Nerd, doesn't it? Real quick with the existing option with the 4% Bilt cash. The overall multiplier on non-category spend ends up being a constant 3.33x multiplier if you spend anywhere under 75% of your rent or mortgage. However, if you spend more than 75%, it's almost certainly worse, though you can't really say that it's strictly worse. That's because you can't earn more than 1x of your rent or mortgage, even if you have more than enough Bilt cash in order to convert. For example, if your everyday spend and rent are both $2,000, you'll earn a 3x overall point multiplier and have $20 of Bilt cash left over. Maybe Bilt cash will end up having incredible value, though if that turns out to be the case, you may be better off just using these Bilt cards just for everyday spend and using the 4% Bilt cash for other things. And with that, let me know your thoughts about this new option for earning Bilt points on rent and mortgages. Or if you're not feeling the added complexity to the Bilt program. Or really anything that's frustrating about the Bilt 2.0 program, from the fact that rent and mortgage payments are done as an ACH to how some Bilt 1.0 people aren't getting approved for the Bilt 2.0 cards. Whatever direction that you take your perspective, I'd love to hear what you have to say. On screen is another video that YouTube thinks you might like, and here's your card nerd signing off. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.